They are the insiders, Darren Dreger, Pierre LeBrun, and Bob McKenzie. Let's start with last year's Hart Trophy winner, Taylor Hall, who's barely played 30 games this year. Bob, out since mid-December. He's had knee surgery. With New Jersey not going to the playoffs, any chance we see him again this year?
Well, Glenn, I just assumed that because he hasn't played since late December and he had his knee scoped to clean out some debris in late February, that there was no chance we'd see him play again this year. That's not necessarily the case. Now, a decision will be made next week on whether Taylor Hall plays any of the Devils' remaining games. And obviously the fact they're not going to be a playoff team could come in factor into that decision. But he is healing and he is getting better and he's getting closer to being able to return. And as I say, next week they'll make a call on that. He'd like to get in games if he possibly could. The bigger question that will be asked will be in the offseason, because Taylor Hall, of course, is 1 year away from unrestricted free agency. The Devils are obviously going to want to extend him. He likes it in New Jersey. He liked it better when he was a Hart Trophy winner on a playoff team as opposed to what's happened to his game and that of the Devils. But that's something for Ray Shero and him to deal with in the offseason, and I'm sure it'll be one of those dominant storylines come the summer.
Wednesday night in Toronto, the Leafs almost pulled off the miracle comeback. Late in the third, though, with the Leafs pressuring, Colin Delia appeared to knock the net off its moorings. John Tavares was pretty vocal about it afterwards, Dregs. Do you think the league's going to look at this and possibly make a rule change in the offseason?
Well, they've looked at it because it happens once every 2 games in the National Hockey League. That's the reality, given the fact that the NHL has charted this over the past year. Are they looking at adding an additional coach's challenge? I would say no, that's not on the radar. But it was talked about recently at the NHL general managers meetings, and there are some things that are being considered and will likely be part of the cleanup process before the start of next season. It could be as simple, if it's accidental, of taking away a line change from the defending team. If it's believed to be intentional, the officials on the ice could call a penalty on the play or award a goal. But know this, John Tavares, the National Hockey League will look after this in some fashion in time for next year.
Pierre, the Coach of the Year candidates have been thrown around for a little while now. Trotz, Bill Peters, maybe Claude Julien, of course, John Cooper has to be in the mix. But you spoke to one coach who, if he had the vote, which he doesn't, yeah, we know who he would pick.
Yeah, and speaking to Barry Trotz, who I think a lot of people think will win given the turnaround with the Islanders, but he was very clear. He said, listen, if the Tampa Bay Lightning keep going at their pace, he doesn't know how John Cooper can't win. That would be his pick. And he says part of what he finds amazing as far as a coaching job is that he has been in those shoes. Remember, he coached some of those Washington teams that would get into the month of March with a double-digit lead, and suddenly it was hard to keep that rhythm. Not Tampa. So far, midway through March, the Lightning still winning, winning, and winning. That's the choice for Barry Trotz, but he doesn't have a vote.
The Detroit Red Wings don't like being at or near the bottom of the league, but that won't negatively impact head coach Jeff Blashill, who's on the final year of his contract. The expectation is the Red Wings, even before the end of the season, may begin extension negotiations with Blashill. So even though the Wings are 30th place overall right now, they've liked the way that Blashill's handled the young kids and that they've continued to develop. And in spite of the fact that they don't have nearly as many points as they'd like, the Wings have been very competitive, well-structured, and well-coached over the course of this season. So the fault of the Detroit Red Wings season is not being laid at the feet of the head coach.
Finally, guys, we have to address this because it's Connor McDavid, and he was basically the face of the new NHL, but he's just produced his 3rd straight 100-point season, which puts him in an elite Hall of Fame type category. And people are wondering, you know, if the Oilers miss the playoffs again, which they likely will, 3rd time in 4 years for McDavid, how long until he's going to say, enough of this, I don't want the losing, I want out of Edmonton?
Well, not anytime soon, if ever, really. But I can tell you this, my understanding is Connor McDavid fully invested in seeing this franchise turn things around. Obviously, the GM hire looms large, the coaching decision. He's part of wanting this to go right. He's not looking for reasons to look elsewhere. So that's important. It's not surprising. If you know Connor McDavid, he knows that he doesn't want any cop-outs. But I will say this, and this is just my own opinion, if this is still the way things are in Edmonton in 3 years, who knows? I mean, he signed a long-term deal, but at this point, it's silly for anyone to think that he would want out.
Yeah, no players want to waste years of their prime losing. What a tough loss for the Oilers as well the other night to the Devils on Wednesday. They're now 6 points out with 4 teams to jump over just to get in.